Limited edition watches. Get them right and you got The Lord of the Rings. Get them wrong and you got The Hobbit. What's the difference and why do we care so much? Hi, welcome back to Not So Obvious Watches. I'm Pete McConville. Limited edition watches are a constant theme in discussions on watch forums, in watch blogs, on podcasts and videos. And the community has a kind of a split idea about them. And I'm no different. A year ago, I did a video where I said that limited editions could be terrible. I did a scathing video of the Hodinkee Seiko tie-up for the Blue Alpinist. But then myself, just a few weeks ago, did a video where I spoke about how limited editions were an important and valuable part of a watchmaker's arsenal for managing their catalogue. You listen to the Girls on 10 and 2 podcast. Excellent podcast. Go check them out. If you, God forbid, you're going to see them before you see me, but just in case. And their recent one on limited editions touched on that issue as well, where on one hand they're both perfectly fine with it, but then on the other hand recognize that there are certainly limited editions that you don't feel comfortable with. So I've been poking at why is that, and I came down to kind of a good limited edition is like Lord of the Rings, a bad limited edition is kind of like The Hobbit, and I'll explain why. Watching a movie or being a watch enthusiast requires a certain romance, a certain willing suspension of disbelief. You have to, if you're going to go watch a fantasy movie, you need to suspend your disbelief in dragons, orcs, elves, and magic, and a million and one other things that you have to see but not pay attention to. Little plot inconsistencies, physics inconsistencies. You have to let all that go, and you've got to choose to do so. And the filmmaker, they have a side of the bargain they need to meet as well. They've got to make sure that it's not too realistic, that it's not too difficult to avoid seeing the props. It's not too difficult to see the problem. So they've got to be careful about how they make the movie, and they've got to be careful about things like CGI and frame rates and all that sort of thing. And when you get it right, like in Lord of the Rings, the audience is able to maintain its suspension and disbelief, and we're able to then buy into the agreement between ourselves and the filmmakers, and we're all very happy. When you get it wrong, like you did in The Hobbit, where increased frame rates and some dodgy CGI and a whole bunch of other bloating meant that we the audience, no matter how hard we tried, we kept being hit around the head with, this is a movie, let's pretend, that we couldn't buy into it. The same idea is true of a watch company. We in the watch community kind of have to suspend our disbelief that we're anything more than customers to the watch companies, that we're anything more than cash cows. And the watch company, for their bit, has kind of got to, we all acknowledge that they're in it to make money. They have to charge us money, but they've got to kind of be careful about how greedy they look, about how close to the surface they wear those commercial imperatives. That's okay. We understand money's going to be exchanged. We understand they're going to make money. But as long as we all keep it kind of low key, then we're able to pretend we're in some kind of partnership with the company. When a company gets a limited edition wrong, and limited editions are possibly the worst, but you could do it with a core watch, but limited editions are where there's the most opportunity for a brand to let slip that we are nothing more than cash cows. If they do, like they did with the Seiko Blue Alpinist, if they simply take a watch which everyone knows is going to be insanely popular, which is a no-brainer to make. People have been crying out for a blue alpinist for years. And then they make it, and they make 200 of them, and they charge, or however many they made, 1,000 of them, and then they charge like double the going rate for it. It's like putting a big sign up saying, suckers, come here, we want your money. And that's all we want. And that's upsetting to us. That's upsetting to us because it's like someone walking out on the stage in the middle of a play and saying, you realize this is all, let's pretend. You realize that we're only doing this because you're paying us money. It doesn't allow us to suspend our disbelief that allows us to have this kind of romance about the hobby. That's what I think becomes a bad limited edition. Just like The Hobbit was, the frame rates were too high, the CGI didn't really allow us to buy into the myth. The Blue Alpinist, the price was too high, the execution was too obvious, it was always going to happen, it was always going to be popular. It was just crass, I think. Maybe that's it. Maybe there's this sense of if it's just a crass money grab that, as I said, rips away this mystique, this romance, we get annoyed. So I think that's the difference between a good limited edition and a bad one. A good limited edition allows us, the consumers, to maintain our belief that we are more than mere consumers, that we are collectors, that we're enthusiasts, that we're in some ways in this with the watch companies. And you end up with a movie like The Lord of the Rings, where we buy into the myth. A bad limited edition gets in the way of that. It's too obvious. There's too much money involved, too little change involved. The restrictions just seem weird and arbitrary. And as a result, all pretense that there's any kind of understanding or an arrangement between us and the companies, even though it's all mythology, or even though it's own, we all know it's not real, but we just don't want to be reminded that it's not real. All that stuff gets stripped away, and we're left feeling like suckers. And people don't like to feel like suckers, and their response is they get angry. So that's my theory on why some limited editions we tolerate, even celebrate. Others we don't tolerate, and we even revile. What do you think about that? Do you think I'm smoking dope? Do you think that there's less going on, more going on? I'd be interested in your comments. Leave them below. I've been Pete McConville. This has been Not So Obvious Watches. For more overthinking and examination of odd little corners of the horology hobby, come here, like and subscribe this video. Even if you don't, like and subscribe anyway, for no other reason than you'll make me feel good. See you later. Bye.